Hello, I'm James Toy, Senior Vice President of Government Affairs for KCRAR. You're about to watch one of our candidate interviews, an unfiltered, front row look at how those seeking office approach the issues that shape private property rights and the real estate industry as a whole. We share these conversations publicly so you can hear directly from the candidates, understand their positions in their words, and cast your vote with confidence. John, we'd love to hear a little bit about you, about your campaign, and why you're looking to make the jump from alderman to legislature.
Gotcha. Well, a little bit about me. I've been on the city council in Grandview here for 15 years. I'm on my 16th year. I got on when I was 25 years old, and I just had somewhat recently graduated from college, and Grandview had made Forbes's top 10 most dying towns in the country back then. And there was a lot of truth to it. We were up there with Detroit and Flint, Michigan, and such. The recession really hit Grandview pretty hard, but a lot of what happened really couldn't be blamed on the recession. It was just we had some very dated ways of thinking at things. We weren't very proactive when it came to businesses, and just I think we were just kind of asleep at the wheel for a long time, and it all came to a head. So I decided to run for city council, and I think the good folks that lived here, they were pretty fed up with some of the things as well, because they elected a 25-year-old kid who lived with their parents at the time, and so I mean that says something, that they says, hey, yeah. I'm I'm ready for, you can't do any worse. I don't know if that was the best endorsement, but since then we have worked together. We've had new mayors and new board members, and we have really changed the outlook of Grandview. And that pro business, pro open mindedness that we have brought to the table in Grandview has really just done so much, because we're a minority majority city. So developers don't necessarily knock down the doors when your disposable income is $53,000. Or the average median income is here. Our poverty rate is 16.3. So when you look at those numbers, it doesn't look like you'd be able to pull a lot of new development, but we have been. We're just very strategic about who we want to do business with, who we allow to do business with. And we have got the lowest per debt capita than any other city in the region here. And I think it's just from smart business practices. So when you go from operating like that, hold on one second, let me put this on silent real quick. When you go from operating a system like that, where people can get along and be professional and make progress, and we're consistently inundated with Jackson County ridiculousness all the time. I mean, we can't even, when we would have a brand new development, went from a green field, they built a very nice factory or a warehouse on it. We turn everything over into the county for the county property taxes. Well, if they don't get that within the first year, we lose out on money. I mean, the city, and I mean, they just couldn't even properly take the stuff we gift wrap to them to update it into the system. So, and it was just time and time and time again. The city of Grandview has the only DMV that's operated by a city in the entire state of Missouri. And they decided, their infinite wisdom, that you cannot make a change to your personal property tax. You have to either go downtown or Independence. You can't do it at one of the satellite offices anymore. We've always done that before. Now, no one likes going to the DMV anyway. So that all that did is just make us look bad as the operators who are trying to provide a service to the community. And there was no reason for it. It wasn't because there was new security factors. It was just, they're just not good at doing business, and just time and time again. So when all this has kind of come to a head here, and re-election time has come, and I see who is filing and who's not filing, because there's 10 elected officials there between the county executive, 3 at large, and 6 in district seats. There's only 2 representatives running for their seats again. So a minimum of 80% to, if not 100% turnover is going to happen at the county level. So this is a problem and an opportunity at the same time. So this is an opportunity to actually have people with actual successful policy experience going in there to be able to do the day-to-day business. I don't search for the camera. I don't search for the microphone. I'm not there for sound bites. I'm there to do the plain, boring work of government. We should be able to provide essential services accurately. We should be able to do the county doesn't have very many rules. I mean, not rules, responsibilities in Jackson County because municipalities take care of the vast majority of it. They do have a park system. They do have the property tax assessment, which has been a consistent mess for multiple years now. They contract out with University Health for the health department, but I mean, there's still 1,100 employees with about just under a $600 million budget that they can make a good positive influence and quit getting in everybody's way and just do it effectively if we put the right people in there right now. So I think there is a good amount of qualified. So there's a couple of municipal leaders like myself who are running now. There's other folks that I think could be some good leaders. And I think I've met a lot of them on the campaign trail, on both sides of the aisle there. And I think a lot of the things that we're looking at is I think I could work with you without getting in a verbal argument. That's sad when that's kind of the bar when you're like, hey, we can agree to disagree and we can move forward and shake hands and keep going forward with things. And that hasn't been the case in the last 4 years. So that's a little bit about me and I guess kind of why I'm running, for Jackson County Legislator. So I'm a nonprofit professional. So I have a business degree. I assumed when I graduated college, I was going to go work at Cerner. That's what most people with a business degree around 2008, 2009, they got out and did that with the recession. They could hire somebody with 5-6 years experience at entry-level positions, and entry-level positions are like get in line. So I was a nighttime janitor, a substitute teacher, a bailiff, and I kind of stumbled into nonprofit work. And I started working with Catholic charities. I worked with folks coming out of prison, get back on their feet. And I did workforce development. So I was helping them find jobs. Since it wasn't court mandated, people were applying to get into this program. So they had the motivation to try not to recidivize and they wanted to kind of change their lives. So it was a great experience to work with these folks. And so I was be able to use business kind of background to go talk to businesses who'd be willing to hire these clients here. And it was great. Unfortunately, just like most nonprofit jobs, it was a federal grant that we had. That grant was going to be coming to an end there. But I went on to work at United Way. So I could, it's kind of all right, I can use business skills to go talk to businesses to help fundraise for nonprofits. And so I've just kind of stayed in nonprofits. So the last 7 years, I've been the executive director for the Grandview Assistance Program. And we provide a food pantry, written utility assistance, school supplies, winter coats, adopt a family at Christmas time. So we do those types of services. So between having the experience of an elected official in this district and helping serve our most vulnerable people, I think I have a very unique mindset of an experience of how their decisions really ripple down and can hurt people or how their decisions can actually help people. So I think that's what I have to bring to the table is kind of both sides of the coin there between a political and a good professional experience to come in there.
Well, and you've made me feel bad in the process about what I do. And I thought I was busy and giving back, but now I feel like I need to jump off this call and go do something for someone.
Well, no, it's Friday, Jeff. Don't you worry about that.
All right. Well, I got the weekend to make up for it then.
That's right.
Well, John, certainly appreciate you sharing a little bit about yourself and about your background. And I just want to say hats off to you for your work in the community. It sounds like you do a lot of phenomenal things. I have a little bit of experience working with local United Ways back in my home state of Florida. So love to hear that you have some involvement with them. They do tremendous things in their respective communities. You made a point earlier talking about how you almost have a clean slate scenario with this election and there's going to be significant turnover, and you're in a very unique position where you have quite a wealth of political experience that most people running for office typically don't have going into an election cycle. So, looking back at your experience, can you maybe speak a little bit to some of your involvement in housing policy as an alderman, and perhaps looking forward, how could you use that to shape housing policy for Jackson County? What opportunities do you see, and maybe what challenges do you anticipate?
Sure. And that's a really good question because being a city councilman in Grandview, we are desperate for a variety of different housing. Most of Grandview got built in two different kind of time phases, and um, housing diversity is something incredibly important to us, and that's something that we're always striving for. When you look at an entire county, most pockets of the county want that same type of diversity. People want to be able to right size if their kids are grown and gone. They don't need their 5 bedroom house anymore, but they want something else. But they want to stay in their community where they lived for so long. Here in Grandview, they can't. We have so little ranch style zero entry houses for seniors to ever actually kind of downsize or right size into. That's really what kind of woke me up to housing diversity problems that we have in Grandview, because we also can't attract a lot of young professionals because there's not a lot of good houses to actually get brought up into, and we're landlocked. So when you look at an entire county wise, I know Lee Summit, they kind of they make fun of how many apartments are getting built out in Lee Summit, and I could say plenty about how many apartments that they have out there, but at the same time, I don't think any of them are empty. There's people who are trying to get into those apartments because they can't buy houses, because they're either not building enough houses, or they're not building houses in the right areas that people are wanting to do. So I am a very firm believer in trying to bring housing as many places as we possibly can. And that's going to be from a starter house, that's going to be for a young family, a good working class family, up to senior housings where they can have bungalows and low maintenance places and everything in between here. I don't want to demonize renters by any means, but I do. A lot of corporations in Grandview have bought a lot of our single family dwelling houses, so they're rentals now instead of single family dwelling.
Owner
Owned by,
occupied.
yeah, and that's kind of a struggle sometimes. Just because I think when you own a home, you're more vested into the community. You just have a little bit more pride in its appearance, what it can do, what you can do with the community. And I don't think renters are bad, but I know that there's a good chunk of renters who don't want to be renters. They want to be homeowners. And so we don't have enough houses by any means. And we don't have enough senior houses that could actually open up a lot of the housing market right now if we didn't have that.
Yep.
So that's one of the things that we're desperately always trying to attract in different ways, whether it's working with the state through the MHDC projects to try to get different affordable housing projects to be able to come in here that are going to be age restrictive or income based, maybe 60 to 40 AMI or something, to help, with that practice there. But um, I even think the housing stock that we have isn't really owned by the right generations and everything now. So I mean, you can only get that if there's more options, that everybody has their choice and they can actually afford to get into them.
Well, I appreciate I mean, you have a really good knowledge of the market because again, if the seniors don't have a place to move, they're going to stay where they're at, and that limits the housing supply. It's kind of a big cycle. They need to start back over because they're
Mm-hmm.
looking to downsize, and then everybody else moves up, and as everybody moves up, it starts freeing up that inventory. And then also with regard to renters, I always kind of look at renters as they're not my customer today, but they're my customer down the road because if I get them in my community, whether it be in a rental, they're going to establish a bank and they're going to have their doctor that's close by and their grocery store and all the things that they do. Kids get into schools. They typically buy within a mile to a mile and a half of where they've rented. So I don't look at them as my customer today, but I'm going to get them down the road.
Yeah, that's a very good point. So really, between a mile and a mile and a half, that's good.
Hmm.
That's good. And that would make sense, especially if they had kids, because they want to stay in not the same school district, but maybe even in the same building, so they don't have to move and start
Sure.
things all over again. Yeah.
Well, when we talk about housing, we also need to talk about economic development. And economic development is, key indicator of a thriving community. What role do you think your new one, if you're successful, will play in bringing new economic development to the Grandview area?
Uh, if I am elected to the Jackson County Legislature, I'll be kind of working for the entire county, because
Right.
I'm one of those guys that likes, if every district does well, then we all do well, when it comes to that. But,
Mhm.
my experience is more kind of in the Southland. And, but I don't think that currently Jackson County is doing very much economic development to begin with. So, I mean, even if we start a little bit, I think it's going to be leaps and bounds more than anything else. I
They
think
seem to
that
be repelling more than they are attracting.
they are. Every single county that touches Jackson County is growing, and if you're not growing, you're dying. I mean, it's like there is no maintaining on anything there.
Full
I think,
disclosure, I'm the chairman of planning and zoning for the unified government in Wyandotte County. So we're going to be the benefit of a kind of a big new football stadium that's going to be leaving Jackson County.
mm-hmm, absolutely. Well, and Wyandotte County, and this is no offense to Wyandotte County, but I mean, 15, 20 years ago, you wouldn't even thought about buying houses over there. When Cerner built out there, you're kind of like, oh, okay, well, they want to be next to the Legends. It was just this dot that was out there. And the only reason that thing has filled in as much as we have is the failures of Jackson County and just pushing people out on a regular basis. Uh, I don't think they're very pro business by any means. And I think with a clean slate, I guess I need to say this carefully here, but I think Jackson County is its own worst enemy when it comes to the good old boy club, or uh,
We
we've
have that
always done it
also.
this. We've always done it this way. These people always get those contracts, and when you can kind of get a fresh slate in there, and you'd have less maybe pressure and influence. Things just need to be a very black and white system so it's fair for everybody, and people can bid jobs fairly, justly. I like competition. I like being able to be open for business. I like to be pro business, but you can't do that and help your friends at the same time. You can't do both.
Right.
It's
Well,
kind of
and
one
that's
or
a
the other.
situation that we engaged in prior to consolidation. The consolidation of the government made it possible for the Speedway to come. And once the Speedway came, that became the catalyst for the Legends and all the other development and the housing and everything that subsequently came afterwards, Cerner, and so on.
Mm-hmm.
So you're right.
Yep.
Yeah. The Good Old Boys Club is only for the good old boys. And if you're not in it, so.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely.
Hey, John, so let's say you could wave a magic wand, you can right the ship for Jackson County, you can make it more pro-growth, more friendly to developers. Are there any target industries or businesses you would like to see come into the county?
Oh, that's a great. I don't think I've been asked that about an actual targeted business.
Doesn't have
Hmm.
to be anything overly specific. I'm just curious to hear your thoughts on maybe whether it's finance, healthcare, anything that you think would be a particular benefit to the county.
I think businesses that have a little bit more, what's a good way of putting this here? Watching Cerner grow, and I hate to use Cerner as the example over and over again, but watching that thing grow and then get sold and then move there. I used to think those tech type jobs but to me, I think those tech jobs can move around so frequently. But when you have more of an infrastructure type of need or requirement, I'm not going to say manufacturing specifically, but those types of jobs like Honeywell. Um, um, an engineering type background job, I would like to track those types of jobs a little bit more. They're good paying jobs, they're good skills, they're they're attracting a new workforce that needs to be done. And I would love to attract that because on Eastern Jackson County, we have room. I don't want to say like a data center necessarily because I want something with jobs and something that's also not a lightning rod of a conversation either. But I want something with jobs. Warehousing is great when you think of logistics and geographically, there's a lot of warehousing opportunities in Kansas City just because we're in the middle of the country and they can just kind of go anywhere you want to. But it has a cap when it comes to what they're going to be able to make per hour. So I would love to be able to have the types of businesses that are going to be a skilled manufacturing position of some way, shape, or form. I was always thrilled to learn the state of Kansas produces so many airplanes, for example. I would have never thought that that's one of their biggest exports or these gigantic planes. Um, that to me, I think is a pocket industry like that we could actually wrap our arms around and partner with the state. I think would be great and something that we don't have to compete with Kansas for because we will lose on that fight every single time. If we have to compete, they'll start in Missouri and go to Kansas for whatever star bonds or something else that they might offer. But I also don't want to compete with St. Louis. I'd love to be able to partner with St. Louis and just make the whole state a little bit better.
Sure. No, I think that response makes a lot of sense. You're really looking for pillar enterprises, those that can invest long term and have careers that have long term growth patterns and can't pick up and move just for a lower tax burden. I think that Makes a lot of sense. I do want to ask you
James,
about
James, I wanna write that down. I just need you to actually just kind of take my thoughts and actually make them sound great here.
you. Hey, you go for it. You can steal it all day long. That's more than fine by me.
What
Now,
was your
John,
next
I did
question?
want to shift the conversation a little bit. We've talked a little bit about residential development, we've talked about commercial development, but all of that is highly dependent on having a good infrastructure network, whether it's stormwater, sewer, traditional roads and bridges, you name it. All of that has to be up to par to make your residential and commercial development successful. Could you speak to a little bit of your experience as far as infrastructure development with the city and maybe where Jackson County is headed, because certainly Jackson County, like every other county across the country, is experiencing increased pressures when it comes to labor shortages, when it comes to economic pressures, and infrastructure is getting more costly by the day. Do you have a
Yeah.
plan in mind maybe to address some of those concerns?
Yeah, I think the plan is to actually address it. In Jackson County, they have not addressed infrastructure in for a long, long time. In the district, I represent the fourth district here. Blue Parkway is just shut down. Their solution to their Blue Parkway corridor, that beautiful drive, is probably the most scenic, beautiful drive in South Kansas City, and it runs parallel to 71 highway. So this is a feeder road that would take congestion off of 71, and people who live in South Kansas City used to drive this thing all the time. Their solution to fix it was putting an 8-foot mound of rocks and just close the entire road. That was their solution here. Infrastructure is the key to everything. You have to do it. And it's also, this is one of those boring government essential things that I love. This is the things that people take for granted. You should be able to drive down the street to your house and not even think about whatever had to go into it. You want to see fire plugs. You want to have not hit potholes everywhere. This is the basic functions of government here. You have to work with the municipalities that are within the county here. These are bond projects that can be zero tax increase bond projects to do a huge amount of investment into the community that actually that type of investment spurs to economic development, who spurs to the housing, who spurs everything. It makes the schools better. It brings up everything. So that is the nuts and bolts is infrastructure. In Grandview, we just passed our largest bond package and we just finished up everything. We did just under 50% of our lane mile residential roads in the last 2 years with this bond package here. So I love building things. Building things take a little bit of time, but it just takes planning and it takes a strategic plan and sticking to the plan. And the thing is, when you have a bond project, the county has a great credit rating here. They should take that thing and use it for the investment of their citizens, and you just take that. But this is how you build trust. In the next year or two, I don't know if the citizens would even trust Jackson County to pass a bond, to be able to do that. So this is one of those things. I think when you have a clean slate of elected officials coming in there, they might give us a chance to say, hey, let us prove to you that we can invest those money into infrastructures to be able to go do that. The state has done a ton of bridges throughout the state, which is great. I mean, that's always a good, expensive chunk of the process, but we can't rely on MoDOT for everything. And we can't rely on Kansas City for everything. They have a lot of territories that go into like 3 different counties, but a lot of municipalities could have some very wonderful pocket programs that are shovel ready projects if they just had good partnerships. So I think infrastructure is partnerships, knowing who the key stakeholders are and knowing how to invest the money wisely in there with the greatest return. You have to have that ROI to be able to, to make those things worthwhile. But I think that there is tons of potential in Jackson County if we actually highlighted it.
I think it's a point very well made, and I appreciate you saying that. And certainly with this new board, I think you do have a chance to garner some more public trust and perhaps do some larger projects down the road. So appreciate your perspective on that. And Jeff, I think we have one last question if you'd like to send us home.
Sure. Thank you. Again, thank you for your time today. Realtors are in people's living rooms every day. So, in many cases, we know what they're happy with, what they're unhappy with, why they move to an area, and why they're moving out of an area. Why should the realtor support you?
I think that the realtors as a whole, I've bought 2 houses here, so I've luckily had really good experiences with both my realtors. Um, I would love to bring that happy feeling that people have when they buy a house. They have this ecstatic feeling of, I have earned something, I'm working towards something, I'm getting that dream, and I want to actually make that thing a bigger dream, make that feeling spread throughout Jackson County. I think Jackson County has had a tremendous amount of just kind of negativity. This is what you get. Here's your property values. This is what you deserve, not this is what you can become here. And I think that if given an opportunity with your guys' support and the support of the voters of the fourth district there, I think we can build a stronger Jackson County where there's going to be more sales. There's going to be more growth. I think people are going to be wanting to chase that American dream, and they're going to want to do it here. And maybe those people who move from Jackson County to move to Johnson County might actually want to move back. So hopefully it'll keep you guys even more busy at that point. But I think with partnering with good pro business with folks and who are housing focused like I am, I think I would be a good partner, not only just for the realtors, but for everybody in Jackson County. So I'd appreciate your consideration with that. But I kind of want to bring some smiles to Jackson County.
That is a great answer. And I'm glad we recorded this because I'm probably going to take the transcript and use it someday if I run for an office. That's going to be my take.
All right.
So yeah, so I'm going to steal that. I'm going to let you know right now.
Bad, bad. I'm stealing stuff
stealing
from
that.
James, so you could take that one. That's only
There we
fair.
go. There we
We'll
go.
call it even. There we go. Well, John, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. We truly appreciate it, especially on such a short week here when everyone's schedule is so condensed and we're all so busy. So appreciate your time and professionalism. And before we hang up here, is there any questions we can answer for you?
What? Just out of curiosity, could you explain what your guys' next steps are and kind of what the process you guys go through?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a three-step process. So you've already completed the two tasks on your end. So we start off with our questionnaire. We go to a Zoom interview, and then we have a group of our members who meet. They deliberate on the candidates based on the questionnaires and the interviews themselves, and then they will issue a decision. So sometime within, I would estimate the next 3.5 weeks, we'll have a response for you.
All right, that sounds good to me. I appreciate it. Well,
Of
thank you
course,
for
no,
the
thank you so much.
opportunity.
Yep. Thank you again. And if you think of any other questions, feel free to reach out anytime. But other than that, have a fantastic weekend.
All right, you do the same. Thank you, Jeff.
Nice
Thank you,
nice
Jeff.
meeting you.
Have a good
Take
one.
care.